Welcome everyone to Davis Bottom, such a rich part of Lexington's history. Named for Willard Davis, an advocate, civil rights advocate, who sold housing to newly freed African American families after the Civil War, including houses in Davis Bottom. From the start, Davis Bottom was a unique neighborhood on account of and because of its diversity. But although a tight-knit community developed here, Davis Bottom was not always an easy place to live in. The area frequently flooded, and floods often brought disease. As early as the 1930s, there was talk of a need to extend Newtown Pike to provide a new gateway into South Lexington. But Davis Bottom stood in the path. Reverend Thomas Peoples, many of you know Reverend Peoples, longtime minister of historic Pleasant Green Baptist Church up on Maxwell, served this area for decades, has been one of many city leaders who has encouraged the city to show respect for this neighborhood and its neighbors as plans for Newtown Pike Extension developed. As many of you know, the Newtown Extension project remained on city drawing boards for decades. By 2002, with the state and the federal government. So this represented a plan that preserved the neighborhood, a plan that provides new affordable housing, a plan that will improve traffic downtown and provide better access from the interstate to UK and South Lexington, a plan that has become a national model for neighborhood preservation. So today we're taking an important step forward in that plan, and we are so fortunate to have again with us, when good things happen, fortunately he's in town, Governor Steve Beshear, here joining us for this announcement. And Governor, I want to thank you personally for the extraordinary work that James Ballinger and his team at District 7 have done on this project. Please join me in welcoming our Governor, Steve Beshear.
This is indeed a day of celebration because we're celebrating collaboration and planning today. Providing better transportation access in Lexington, as we all know, is important to this community and it's important to the entire Commonwealth. But at the same time, it's also important that we carefully plan our transportation projects so as to minimize their sometimes adverse effect on the residents. As we all know, work continues to move forward on the Newtown Pike Extension, the critical link between Interstate 75 and the University of Kentucky. As the mayor mentioned, that was first identified way back as a transportation need for Lexington. But progress on that extension has at the same time displaced many residents. Fortunately, the Lexington Community Land Trust and a host of partners have an answer to that problem. Today we break ground for affordable homes in the former South End Park of Davis Bottom. Federal and state transportation funds were used to acquire 25 acres of the former South End Park neighborhood in a cooperative effort by the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, the Lexington Fayette Urban County Government, the Federal Highway Administration, and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Construction of 14 rental units have already begun, and construction of as many as 6 other homes for private ownership are in the planning stages. The Lexington Community Land Trust will own the land, while the dwelling units will be owned either by the trust itself or private developers who hold land leases with the trust. By the way, this is the first land trust of its kind in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Now, the Cabinet and the city entered into a contract in 2013 to build the streets, the storm sewers, and the sanitary sewers. And the Cabinet has since spent more than $10 million on this project. $6.95 million to acquire right-of-way, and $3.6 million for infrastructure improvements and utility relocations. Residents who were displaced by the project and are moving into the rental units will receive housing relocation and other mitigation benefits that will assist them with rent for the next 10 years. Construction of the homes for private ownership will be financed by acquisition cost and relocation and mitigation benefits received by displaced homeowners. Altogether, this project represents a great use of public and private resources for the benefit of our community.
But this project is very close to me, quite frankly, very emotional to me. It's a project that we started working on that 14 years ago when I first came to Kentucky. It's a project that, as the mayor said, we conceived a way through it to put it on the ground in a manner that addressed transportation and, more importantly, conserved the community, conserved that cohesiveness of that community, and made it better. It was a challenge, to say the least, but today is indeed a day of celebration, Governor and Mayor. The Newtown Pike extension is an excellent example of a solution balancing long-needed transportation improvements, innovative community preservation, and economic development and enhancement. This project provides a sustainable, community-sensitive transportation solution that dramatically does a number of things. Improves traffic flow through downtown Lexington, improves access to the University of Kentucky, improves pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular safety, preserves and enhances immediate and surrounding neighborhoods, and provides opportunities for smart and sustainable economic development. We all rally around those principles from the start. What I love about this group of people that worked on this, and there were so many, like the governor said, is that they all worked together in what I describe as the art of the possible. Bureaucracy sometimes got in our way, and we found a way sometimes around it, over it, and if necessary, through it. So the project, however, had the potential to adversely affect the David Bottom neighborhoods. A community impact assessment was done in 2003 that described the affected communities, their attributes, and members. It identified the project's direct and indirect impacts on those communities, including residents who were affected in the South Park neighborhood. The multi-agency project team quickly, and I mean quickly, concluded that it was necessary for the project integrity and for the integrity of the South Park neighborhood to keep that neighborhood together, viable and affordable for the future. The goal of that project mitigation is today to improve the South End Park, to preserve its affordability for current and future residents, and to maintain that community cohesiveness that made it so special. And here comes the part that was tremendously creative. The mitigation utilizes a community land trust. The first known community land trust developed as part of a federally assisted highway project, to the best of our knowledge, and as the governor said, the first one in Kentucky, right here in our community.
This is such an exciting day for so many people, and most of all for the residents of this historic neighborhood. As was mentioned earlier, William Willard Davis and developer H. Rodolph Durody made the first lots in this neighborhood available to people recently freed from enslavement in 1867. According to the research of this project, some of the African American Civil War soldiers who manned Fort Clay, which is located just beyond our sound mitigation wall, may have been some of the original David's Bottom residents following the war. Later, immigrants of Irish, English, Scottish, and Cherokee descent looking for work moved here from the mountains and joined those first neighbors in work on the railroads, in the tobacco barns, and in textile mills. Life was not easy in Davis Bottom, but the sense of community was strong. And when I think about those first residents and all they went through, I am humbled and proud, as were many of the generations that followed them, that we stand on the shoulders of their sacrifices today. I'd like to acknowledge the foresight of thinkers of the Newtown Pike Extension project team so many years ago who responded to the housing needs of neighbors impacted by this road project. because they considered all the needs of this neighborhood, the need for neighborhood cohesion, for long-term protection of public investment, for permanently affordable housing to both those who are renters and to those who wanted to advance into homeownership, the desire to involve community members in land ownership and land use planning, and the desire to involve both the private, for-profit companies and other nonprofit organizations in housing development. Today, the city of Lexington and Fayette County have Kentucky's first community land trust. This CLT came about first and foremost to provide decent homes for those impacted neighbors, and then to go on to provide more quality, permanently affordable homes that our city, like almost every city in Kentucky and around this nation, so needs. For community land trusts like ours, an affordable home means that the affordability of the income of the home is permanent. The public money going into these homes to make them affordable now will stay with the homes, so it is affordable for the next income qualified buyer 10 years from now, 50 years from now, and so on in perpetuity.
All right, now everybody, get a shovelful.
You're going to count down.
I'm going to count down. When I count to 3,
Throw it at the
we're going to hit the big guy with the camera. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3.
Whoa.
All right, all right.